Greetings YouTube. In this video, I wanted to share what I did to install Harbor Freight Predator 3500 inverter generator into my RV, where a previous owner had removed the originally installed generator. This video is for entertainment purposes only, and I am not responsible for your actions. I'm also not sponsored by any products, and I purchased everything here myself. So let's get into it. So my initial search on YouTube and RV forums came up empty on the topic of supplying a Harbor Freight carburetor directly from the RV's fuel tank by bypassing the gravity feed tank. It concerned me because I was worried I was attempting to do something fundamentally unsafe or ill-advised. And in addition to this solution, I also considered a gravity or siphon-fed extended run fuel tank, and even purchased one of those non-vented caps on eBay. I ultimately decided against the extended run fuel tank, as this solution eliminates the need to keep the extended run tank full, locked up, and possibly elevated somewhere on the RV. As a side note though, that non-vented cap was more expensive than I wanted to pay, but I can report that it is of exceptional quality and worth the price. I also made a couple mistakes by narrating this video, so please accept my apologies up front. I make a reference to Generac when I mean Onan, and I call valves switches sometimes. Also, after further research, the Airtex E11007 pump is identical to the E11006 pump, with the exception of just the electrical connections. Both pumps are 2.5 to 4 psi, they're powered by 12 volts, and they have the same fuel input and output connections and are interchangeable. Here is an overall generator fuel supply system diagram. I'll go over all the components here before showing them to you under the RV. Starting right to left, we have the RV's fuel tank and the existing generator's fuel supply line. I have then intercepted that fuel supply line and put in a marine grade fuel cutoff valve, and that goes to a T, which this is a capped connection. This is a maintenance / auxiliary fuel supply where I can draw in stabilized fuel with this valve closed to put some stabilized fuel in the carburetor for extended storage. That goes into the first filter, which is just a general automotive 100 micron filter, to the 7 psi pump, to the 1 to 4 pressure regulated Holley 12-804, to the Onan 30 micron filter, then on to fuel disconnects, where it then goes into the generator and direct feeds the carb through the internal cutoff valve inside the generator. Now we'll go take a look at the components in the RV. Here we are under the RV. That way is back. That's the front of the RV that way. This is the line coming from the fuel tank that was installed for the original generator that this RV had. This is a marine grade fuel cutoff switch. You can see a little better there. Turned off right now. And I installed a T here after the cutoff switch, and this T that I've capped, this is just I'll call this a maintenance or an auxiliary fuel supply. This is so I can draw in some fuel stabilized or additive rich fuel to the generator for extended storage situations. Otherwise, it'll just pull from the tank. And I'll show you the rest of the components once I move the camera, which are just around the corner here. All right, here we are, more of the meat of what's underneath the RV, starting with the automotive fuel filter. This is just a generic automotive fuel filter I picked up at a local discount auto parts store. I got one with the 3/8 inch barbed fittings like most of the other, just that was really the driving factor for me. I liked that it was clear so I could see the fuel, and on down is the input to the fuel pump. This is the Generac equivalent, E11006. Airtex, I believe, is the manufacturer. And I will move the camera to show the output of that fuel pump to the pressure regulator. All right, here's the fuel pump again, the E11006. This is the 12-volt supply that's switched, and you'll see a switcher on the other side. This is the fuel supply into the Holley fuel pressure regulator. This is the adjustment for the pressure regulator out here, and it has two outputs. I only need one, so I've capped off this other output. And from here, it goes to a inline Generac fuel filter that is up and over and hidden right now, so I can't really see that, but I'll show a picture of what that looks like. I've mounted all of this on composite decking, so that should last a while. The nice thing about this, I was able to install all the components onto the decking, on my workbench versus underneath the RV, and then just brought the assembly underneath here, slid it in and connected each end up to it. So that was much easier than doing the majority of the work on my back here under the RV. Okay, here we are outside. This is the generator compartment door opened, showing the Predator 3500 inverter generator in its position. This is the cage I built to house it, that attaches to the existing mounting that the pre-installed generator had, and I cut out and installed some stainless steel from an old grill to keep the splashing of water down. Here is a on-off switch which powers up the fuel pump. So when I want to run the generator, obviously I have to turn this on prior to starting up the generator. Another thing you have to consider is the Predator exhausts its heat straight out the side. So I've installed a heat shield here, and also you need to direct the exhaust down and away from the living part of the RV. So I have mounted an exhaust pipe that I can then direct, so that direct the carbon monoxide fumes down and away. Here's the back of the 3500. You see the opening here is the oil fill access that I am utilizing this opening to access the carburetor. So this is one of the sides of the fuel disconnect, and I will take off the cover here so you can see what I've done on the inside. These screws here have already loosened up. That just pops off. So here on the inside, this fuel line here goes up and ties into the existing fuel line that came from the tank, and that goes to the internal fuel cutoff switch that's controlled by the switch on the outside here. You bring that to almost to off, and that turns off the fuel, but the generator will still run, and that's a way to burn the fuel out of the carburetor. Now with the cover off, first thing you want to remove is the charcoal filter. This is the vent line from the gas tank vent into this filter. So the first thing we want to do to get access to the carburetor fuel line is to take this off. It's held in place by two 5/16 bolts there that'll also work as 8mm to come off. With those off, work this out. This goes to the air filter. This is the vent from the tank. And back here, this is the output from the fuel tank. what you'll want to do is this line here will be connected to this tank, obviously, and you'll disconnect that and connect it to this fuel line so that you can feed the carburetor directly. What I've also done, not necessary, but what I've done is I added another, tapped the tank and ran the fuel line and the secondary fuel line down to here and capped it. So if I want to use this as a tanked configuration again, all I'll need to do is remove that cap and make the connection between these two fuel lines, and I can run it as a tanked generator with the 2.5 gallon tank. So that's what I've done on the inside. So I'm going to put this charcoal filter back on in place. Something else I wanted to point out with the opening here taken off is with your carburetor bowl here, there is a drain valve which is opened and shut by a slotted regular screwdriver. So you just open up this nut here with the screwdriver, and the gasoline in the carburetor will drain out down here where you can catch it and drain the carburetor for longer storage. All right, so that's here on the inside. I'll reinstall the cover here. Thought I'd show a quick side of the exhaust side of the generator. So what you'll need to do is to get this exhaust piped so that it's down and away from the RV. You can get a section of this exhaust pipe, hose clamp, and some exhaust pipe sealer. Make that airtight. And the nice thing about this exhaust pipe is that it's flexible, so I'm able to bend it as I lift it up and lift it into the RV. I can move this around to keep it out of the way so it doesn't get beat up.